All right, so NVIDIA just dropped $400 million on a company you never heard of, and it might be the most important acquisition in enterprise AI this year. While everybody is worried about the obsession of ChatGPT and the GPU shortages, CEO of NVIDIA has been quietly building something nobody saw coming, a software empire that could kill AWS, challenge Databricks, and rewrite who controls enterprise AI. This is the story of a startup called Kumo AI, and why these three Silicon Valley legends just pulled off an 11x exit in only 4 years. So this startup that got acquired for $400 million had three co-founders. One of the co-founders' name was Vanja, and he isn't a typical co-founder. He was born in Slovenia. He earned a PhD, then climbed to the rankings as the CTO of Pinterest, where he was managing infrastructure for 400 million users. And this was all before he became the CTO of homes at Airbnb. Now, he teamed up with another co-founder by the name of Jur, who was a Stanford professor who literally pioneered graph neural networks and already had one exit under his belt when Pinterest acquired his startup called Cozy. And lastly, their third co-founder by the name of Hema, who led AI at LinkedIn. And just like that, you have the enterprise AI dream team. Now, in 2022, they looked at the market and they saw a massive gap. Companies were drowning in data, but couldn't actually use it for predictions without hiring armies of data scientists. Traditional ML platforms required you to perform your entire database infrastructure to be transformed. They require you to hire PhDs. And the worst part, they expected for you to wait months for results. Kumo AI's thesis was if you could run state-of-the-art AI directly on your existing database, no migration, no data scientists, no 6-month rating period, just immediate results. Now, what exactly was this startup that got acquired by NVIDIA for $400 million, for $500 million? The startup name, like I mentioned, is Kumo, and Kumo built a platform powered by graph neural networks that turns your boring relational database into predictive engines. Connected to your Postgres SQL database or Snowflake, and suddenly you're predicting customer churn, you're detecting fraud, you're scoring credit risk, and forecasting lifetime value in seconds, not months. Now, the magic is in the graph layer. Kumo automatically maps relational database relationships between your data tables and uses those connections to make predictions traditional MO would miss. So think about it. To predict if a customer will churn, which is if a customer will cancel the subscription with your product, you need to understand not just their behavior, but their connections. Who referred them? What products they use? How they interact with their support team. And the magic of Kumo was that Kumo does this automatically. Their customers include major enterprises running real-time predictions on billions and billions of records. No feature engineering, no data science team. Just plug in your database and start predicting. It's MO for the other 99% of companies, the ones who can't afford to hire Stanford PhDs. All right, so here's the numbers. Here's where it gets crazy. So Kumo raised $36.5 million in total, which was led by a venture firm called Sequoia Capital. 4 years later, NVIDIA pays over $400 million for the startup. That's an 11x return for investors and a roughly $5.7 million valuation per employee for a 70-person team. But the real story isn't the exit. I think the real story is that NVIDIA saw something coming. They saw something worth nearly $500 million in a company most people never heard of. And why? Because Kumo solved the last mile problem. So for NVIDIA enterprise strategy, you can sell all the GPUs in the world. But if companies can't easily build AI applications on them, you're leaving money on the table. So Kumo gives NVIDIA a ready-made software layer that turns databases into AI running on NVIDIA infrastructure. So why now? Why did this acquisition happen this year, this month? So NVIDIA's been on an acquisition tear. It's been chess moves nobody expected. For 2 decades, NVIDIA sold solutions on top of solutions within this AI gold rush. But the CEO of NVIDIA realized rather than just selling the solution, why not just own the solution and solve their problems for everybody? So first they built CUDA, which is CUDA, and locked developers into their ecosystem. Then they launched AI enterprise software. Then DGX Cloud, now Kumo, gives them the application layer, the actual tools enterprises need to justify buying all of these GPUs. I see this as a direct shot across to Salesforce, AWS, and even Google's Vertex AI, and of course, Databricks. The reason being is because those platforms now have to compete with the company that makes the chips they run. And here's the interesting part. So as AI moves from experimentation to production, enterprises aren't buying point solutions anymore. They want full stack providers. NVIDIA can now walk into Goldman Sachs or Walmart and say, hey, we'll give you the chips that you want, the infrastructure that you want, and the software to predict the customer's behavior. All integrated, all optimized, and all from us. In 2026, this entire industry is a $20 billion market, and NVIDIA just bought their way into it, and really, they bought their way into the front of the line. All right, so what is next for Kumo? For the Kumo team, this is validation that graph neural networks are the future of enterprise AI. And for NVIDIA, it's another piece in their master plan to own the entire AI stack. And for the rest of us, I guess we really just got to watch and see what happens when that chip maker becomes a software company. I think we all seen this coming, that NVIDIA was going to slowly find their way to no longer be the provider, but eventually become the owner, the maintainer. And I think this acquisition is a great example of that directly. Because yes, the startup that they acquired for $400 million did an amazing job being able to access and utilize AI on top of any database. And what NVIDIA really realized once this became clear was that they can utilize this acquisition, this $400 million acquisition, to work on their favor, to work on their behalf. So yeah, NVIDIA definitely strong-armed their way into the competition and is really just leading forward with what they see coming in the future. So not surprised at all. All right, folks, that is it for today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. So add your comments down below in the comment section. Do you think that this acquisition was as big as the headlines? Do you think this $400 million acquisition was anything impactful for a company worth $3 trillion? I don't know. Add your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Peace.